All right, good morning. Can you hear me? All right. That's double action. Yeah. All right. What about now? Yeah, I can hear myself. Yeah. Let's start with a praise to Manjushri, I believe, right? Obeisance to my Guru and Protector Manjushri, who holds his heart to scriptural text embodies of the things or things as they are. Whose understanding shines thoughts as the sun unclouded by defilements or traces of ignorance. Who teaches in 60 ways with a patient love of Father for his only Son. All creatures caught in the prison of samsara, confused in the darkness of their ignorance, overwhelmed by their suffering. Yuzu's stronger thought proclamation arises from the stupor of our delusion and frees us from the iron chains of our karma. Whose powerful sword of wisdom hews our suffering wherever its sprouts appear, clearing away the darkness of all ignorance. I entreat you, Manjushu's princely body is adorned with the 112 marks of a Buddha, who has completed 10 stages, achieving the highest perfection of a Bodhisattva, who has been pure from the beginning. O Manjushri, O loving one, with the brilliance of your wisdom, illuminate the darkness enclosed in my mind, enlighten my intelligence and wisdom so I may gain insight into the Buddha's words and the texts that explain them. Sa shi po ki jun shi me do tam re ra shi ni de gen pa di Sangye Shindu Mikte Hoa Hidroku Namda Shin La Chepa Shoi Danguru Rana Mandala Kaniya
Sangi Chedam Tsoji Chanam La Chanchil Bardu Dam De Kyabsu Che Dagi Chishi Gibe Sonan Drolam Penshi Sangi Drupara Sho Sangi Chedam Tsoji Chanam La Chanchil Bardu Dam De Kyabsu Che Dagi Chishi Gibe Sonan Drolam Penshi Sangi Drupara Sho Sanji Chedang Soji Chonam La Chanchu Bardu Dani Kyabsun Dagi Chushi Gibin Sonum Ji Drolam Sanji Drupara Sho Kanki Tuzini Zone Dawa Tamche Pambi Chere Tambi Chun Dunze Kodam Chela Chanse Lo. Good morning. JT.
Lama Sangye Lama Shude Shin Lama Gendun Te Gungi Chepo Lama Te Lama Nam La Chepabu. Sloncha. It's cheers in Irish.
가진 참되는 막 록샤이스라 들이 가진다 시바 개와 부숨 초봉어 세티 다기 손음 데인 심전 탐지 말고 디바 탐지 빠는 따도 개와 제버쇼스.
Let's go straight into the text. We're going to pick up from the fourth point in the section covering the dedication so that they may obtain excellences in relation to dedicating for the welfare of humans in general. So verse 31 comes under the heading of dedicating for the excellent virtues. Let's look at verse 31. Due to this merit of mine, may all sentient beings without exception abandon all negativities and always create virtue.
데레제다 지금 오동든 다기 손음 세기 아니 손음 디 남중한테 손음 초도 이식 초니는 손음 초 잔주고 셈 공바티 잔주고 셈께 들어 잔주 셈 비춰볼 주야티 전주 냠스 람발 소바다 간지 딘지기 다기 아니 사비 손음 디 툴라테네 아니 심장 탐지기 줄이야 아니 잔주고 셈께 진 아니 딕바 탐지 빠네 따도 개와체 기원 쇼세 말람 디 경구여레스라
Here is the verse says in referring to merit. Due to this merit of mine, so of the two accumulations, the accumulation of merit and the accumulation of exalted knowledge, here we begin with the accumulation of merit. May by me accumulating merit through cultivating the man of enlightenment, rooted in compassion, through practicing Shantideva's guide to Bodhisattva way of life, may all sentient beings, without exception, create virtue, such as, for example, give rise in the mind stream to bodhicitta, and also abandon negativities.
데레다 남중한저 산지 송직 장대저스 디버지엠 미자시 개오푸숨 초버지 랑기 셈노 용순 든 산지 템바 인세 어디 아니 송디다 산지 송니 부디다 피기 송단 찍버려도 왔으라.
Often we recite a verse taken from the Buddha's teachings: do not commit any negative action, perform perfect virtuous actions, subdue your mind thoroughly. This is the teachings of the Buddha. The import of verse 31 is the same, isn't it?
데레 디치디게 딱 개오푸숨 초버세 개오푸숨 초버 랑기 개오 칸치바디 개오푸숨 초버치야 오고 그래스 개오푸숨 초버슬라는 따지 심전 탐지기 체도 토절라는 뭐 양다고 저 산지지 컴포터비기 규 비기 따지 정이 시바질이야 아니 샤투바나 아니 개오푸숨 초버세디 차고로스라 다 규푸숨 균 정이 시바일데야 아니 잔주그 셈기 싱고거레스라 아니 개와 칸시바디 잔주그 셈기 꼴모 잔주그 셈기 셈바이나 아니 개오푸숨 초버세디 차기요레스.
And there's this one verse teaching from the teachings of the Buddha, which says, cultivate perfect virtuous actions. For virtues to become perfect virtues, they need then to contribute to the attainment of the state of enlightenment for the sake of all sentient beings. So we cultivate virtues in general. Then we want to make sure that those virtues become perfect virtues. To become perfect virtues, they need to then become causes for enlightenment. To become causes for enlightenment, they need to be motivated by bodhicitta.
데리디즈다 지단 당간주 참 캥그리 비기 아니 개와 용사기 고다마즈나 아니 릉아 익숨티 다 릉아 익숨 토니 아니 gewa yunguyore lunga yiksung toni megewa yungores digba yungores inza lunga yiksung toni digba tamche pangni ani lunga yiksung toni tuta ani gewa chebaina teni ta sanji kombo top matu yagi gyunzen chi yo marwasra.
Virtue is created with our body, speech, and mind. And similarly, we seek to abandon negativities, non-virtues, which are cultivated with our body, speech, and mind. So if we abandon negativities and always cultivate virtue, there would be no reason whatsoever that will make us incapable of attaining the state of enlightenment.
Taterita pena lugi migiwadi tsu pigigi sokche majimba namba mazamache la soba ani lugi migiwa tsu dosa chagdos ani ngagi jun chama tsu ngake la soba yigi nasim nusum lokda la soba ta digi di kani ani di doksho di da ani lugi gewa ngagi gewa ani yigi gewa di chagdos ra ta dindi chigo gores ra.
So in terms of abandoning negativities or non-virtues, we have those of the body, physical non-virtues such as killing, stealing, sexual misconduct, and so forth. Then we have non-virtues of speech and mental non-virtues. So we arrest them, we put a stop to them, which means that what we do is we cultivate the opposite of them, virtues of body, speech, and mind.
Revena chanchu sem gombalo sobi dagi sonum diyeni chedo shaba simjan tamje maluba sokchu sok gagen digba tamje pani taudu gewa chebar shows.
The commentary says, by my merits for meditating on bodhicitta and so forth, may all sentient beings without exception, were the purpose, abandon all obstructive conditions of negativity such as killing and the like, and continuously practice virtue.
Dan niba yang tabi lamlan jubongo wala nis. Talam jubi samjur punso dan dembang memba tang. Tungien sangshen gagen meba memba wo. Tambo talam jubi samjur pusum sobo dan demba memba ni chanchu semdam mindershi chanchu cholo showa tangs.
And now we move on to dedicating so that they enter the correct path, right? So that's dedicating for the welfare of humans in general. Now this section consists of 2 points. Wishing for them to have the excellent thought and action for accomplishing the path of liberation, and wishing that all conducive conditions be complete and that they be without adverse conditions. Let's begin with the first 2 lines of verse 32. May they never be parted from the mind of enlightenment, exert themselves in the Bodhisattva conduct.
Terda ta chanchu sem da mendes sayagi chanchu sem pena ta nganzu chanchu sem ma gombi kabdula ya ani gombi tablam da masuna gyuba ani ni chik yungudo asra ani chikdi dakshin nyamji goni semke sudi kabdi ani kyasachon shivalita sewu shochik song yorwas ani shamba di gyunde menga duin goni dakshin nyamji lo jansu te iza kabdi zu ani dakshin nyamji goni lo jansu di kyasachon shivalita songu yansa tindri lo jansu rimba di ani kandachik ton songundu di apu shimbayina ani kaddu ina chanchugu sem di rangi sem da matrewa chik gomsu chik da yungur wasirwa mado chanchugu sem kandachik gomgu yome mashina ani chanchugu sem da mindar sayadi da yongye yomar wasirwa.
The first line says, may they never be parted from the mind of enlightenment. To never be parted from the mind of enlightenment means that, first of all, of the 2 methods for cultivating bodhicitta, that were passed on through lineages. We have the method of equalizing and exchanging self with others, as taught here by the great Bodhisattva Shantideva, and the other method of the sevenfold cause and effect personal instructions. So here, as we are studying Shantideva's guide, what is the method that he teaches for cultivating bodhicitta? It is the practice of equalizing and exchanging self with others. So when we make those aspirations here, never to be separated from the mind of enlightenment, the way to make sure that that does not occur is through knowing how to cultivate bodhicitta. If we don't understand, or we don't know the methods for cultivating bodhicitta, just wishing to never to be parted from it is not going to be enough. It is essential to know how to meditate on bodhicitta through one of those two practices in order to ensure that we're never parted from it.
re dene gyasje mo shwale song dege dewan degen timu bi rangi dewa datar jones donga tondu sem yegen donga nyilo ngomba gyu sedi kanji ani mombi wangi ani kowale kuzuki donga gnela ya ani honsulgi bigita nguyu nesulji yoras o di sambi toni ani simjan tamji ani dewa den chimaro nyamba donga den chimaro nyambigi ani samlo di yongo do asra manzo nyam sedi dewa da donga mdeba nyambati ro dashi nyamsul di dagaran remodo shamba kanyo marwasro di nyamba imba di ani ngebi toni ani rangli shen kecho imba di gyunsen tongyo toni ani shen jinzing samlo geni chanju sem kisu di ani jasimo shwale ta sibu shuchi ro sta song asro
Just like Shantideva said before, in one of the previous verses, though sentient beings wish for happiness, they destroy the causes for their own happiness, or ignorantly, they destroy the causes for their own happiness. Though wishing to avoid suffering, they create more and more cause for suffering, and that they rush towards the cause of suffering. So that is done through ignorance. And due to ignorance, sentient beings destroy their own happiness and cultivate cause for suffering. So the way to overcome that is through understanding reality. For example, understanding that sentient beings are equal in terms of seeking happiness and wanting to avoid suffering. So we need to see that reality. We need to think and recognize the equality of sentient beings in terms of wishing for happiness and wanting to avoid suffering. And this is the essence of equalizing self with others, the recognition that sentient beings are equal in their looking for happiness and wanting to avoid suffering. Nothing else is used to explain the equality of living beings other than the basic wish to be happy and not to suffer. So this is what Shantideva here clearly teaches when he speaks of the method of equalizing and exchanging self with others for cultivating bodhicitta.
re dinza da dindri di sem chanju sem gomdang ge ramba ro da danji shiba da re dindri ji ani rangi sem ku bitoni ani chanju sem bichobale ya ani labtu baina jinso phashin tuki nyamne ya ani da lobgo gres lobtu ba chego gres ro.
So in this way, we meditate on bodhicitta, and then when we gain control over the mind, in the sense that we subjugate the mind, we take it on to the practice of the six perfections, such as generosity.
Revena semji kun chanju sem da mindreshi jinso chanju chobala showa da dember kirchis.
The commentary says, may all sentient beings never be separated from bodhicitta and always engage in the bodhisattva practices such as generosity.
Niban tuyen sangshin ga yen meba seti. Tindigi chanju sem da mindreshi chanju sem bi chobala ya 아니 라발이야 아니 튕긴 상고리 가긴 매바 차고 그러왔어. 그러
Now, next section is covering the last two lines in this verse. It comes under the heading of wishing that all conducive conditions be complete and that they be without adverse conditions. So whatever we seek to accomplish, we need to make sure that adverse conditions are not encountered and all conducive conditions are assembled.
데리다 안딘디기 튕긴 상시 가긴 매바 매야디 산지 남기 용송시 뒤기래는 방법 쇼세 디송도
So for ensuring that conducive conditions are met completely and no adverse condition is present, it says in verse 32, in relation to human beings, may they be cared for by the Buddhas and abandon the actions of the Maras.
데리다 비 잔주sem다 멘데시 잔주sem이 쩌발이야 쇼발이야 아니 태버침비 기위신이지기 비 아니 제수 송치니 아니 라베지 마초나 아니 잔주sem이 냠лен디 에따 이자코라 용문도 아스라 비 아니 지 면숨 아니 담자 송야리 아니 죽덤 렘발라 소바 디스 사말로 간지 아니 산지 잔주기 아니 그 군서 송그 송즈 데니 태버침비 기위신이 질 때니 다 용고도 아스라 딘디지기 송신 데니 뒤길레나 방월 쇼스라운다 조 뒤길레디 아니 몸부 마리비기 짜와치비기 아니 차당기 샤만도 송바이나다 아니 뒤길레 생니 차로 버스 딘디지기 샘 딘디지다 타워 쇼스야로 소리지.
And as it says, may they be cared for by the Buddhas. In that, first of all, to be able to practice the Mahayana path, the basis for cultivating the Mahayana path begins with encountering a Mahayana spiritual teacher, without which will not have the basis for the practice of the Mahayana path. We need then, on that basis, to develop aspiring bodhicitta, to take upon ourselves the engaging vow. All of that comes through those teachers that for us represent the body of the Buddha, the speech of the Buddha, and so forth. So that is made available to us through a Mahayana spiritual friend. So as we said here, may they be cared for by the Buddhas to begin with. And may they abandon the actions of the Maras. The actions of the Maras are those that are governed by anger, attachment, and ignorance. If an action is motivated by those afflictive emotions, it means that it is an action of Mara. The sentient beings abandon them.
예, 다긴 기위신이 산진 남기 용 송시 개월라 파치치비 뒤길레 장 방버 쇼스.
May they be looked after by the virtuous teachers, the Buddhas, and may they abandon the actions induced by demons who obstruct the creation of virtue.
다 숨번 내급 jorwatam 대왕고발라 숨스. 제다 냠넨 센데 제발이야. 지 아니 륜캄 대부직 메나 아니 냠네 아니 지 갸침부 아니 띵사부 냠네 찬주 셈도 똥바니 토비기 아니 지 셔럽 공회라 소바디 다 용고 말아왔어 용투 말틴자 디 이체도 아니 지 내가 류셈 데모 고야디 아니 빼마스고 개치면서 저소 데모 용약 체도 아니 ngomalım jaya디 çocuğu javasdan cibin dünya da ngomalım jayadi pe 개침부 로.
And then the next section, point 3, in dedicating for the welfare of humans in general, is dedicating so that they have the temporary endowments and pleasures. There are 3 points in that section, but before we go into them, we here dedicate for the physical and mental well-being of human beings. Without being physically well and mentally well, the practice of bodhicitta and the development of wisdom that realizes emptiness will not come about. If our physical and mental well-being are compromised, we'll not be able to exert the power or the strength that is required in order to develop bodhicitta and the wisdom that realizes emptiness.
제든지래 사지숨 세린시 뇌긴 직된 타본 거다. 팬도비 개오 간식 대발로 쪄본 거다. 그비 여진 상신 내버시오 거. 담부 세린시 뇌긴 직된 타본 거는스. 심전 대다 탐전의 세방매 링월쇼. 다도 대원 촌규시 치위자연 차만큐스.
Sorry, I left out something. So it is important to make dedications or aspirations for the physical and mental well-being of sentient beings in the presence of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas of the 10 directions. The 3 points to the dedication so that they have the tempering endowments and pleasures. First, of dedicating so that they have long lives and so that the world, this vessel, be pure and clean. Then dedicating so that this world be full of beneficial beings and for their conduct to abide in bliss. And dedicating so that all basic necessities are complete and that harm is pacified. Now we begin with the first point, dedicating so that they have long lives and so that the world, this vessel, be pure and clean. Then, sorry? Right. Then it says in verse 33, may all these sentient beings have immeasurably long lives. May they always live in happiness and not even know the term death.
됐다. 배는 직제 디기다. 배는 세르 소르지. 세르 제고약 소르지. 아니 땡구여러 와서라. 세림부 가리기체도 세림고레슬라니. 아니 심전 탐젤라야. 아니 펜다 통행기. 아니 상기 공반식 톱고여러 와서. 디 톱이규 아니 잔주고 셈다. 동반이 톱이 셔르블이야. 아니 로종 제고고라스. 로종 디 뒤엔 튼도 지금 나올라야. 제토그 면자 düzürümbu goyanza ançık serumbucik dematuna ani lojonde çetugu menza da dindi içedu ani dajen samalogi ani ti içedu dini ani serumbucik neba show se ra molom gabe zamayimba pi tachik sela ani jizun dramalo sobi senga tu sabayna ra kolon chanjugu semde ninji nyamnela ya jugunduk ani di 약부팅 사보지 용야 치도 아니 세르무지 용야 디체도 아니 지존 드마타발야 아니 소왔다 투체바나 야자자 담바티니 세르 약슈디 앤 디차고서레스.
This verse wishes for sentient beings to have immeasurably long life. So practices that establish longevity, which is what we need. So for what end do we need to live long? For what purpose do we need longevity? Well, we need longevity for acting for the benefit of sentient beings so that on that basis we'll be able to attain the state of enlightenment. And to make that happen, wisdom is required. We need to develop wisdom, the wisdom of emptiness, and also bodhicitta rooted in compassion so that we'd be able to attain the state of enlightenment. And that requires a long time. And if it requires a long time, then we need also a longer life. We need longevity. Without which, the development of compassion and the development of bodhicitta would be minimal. So we here aspire for sentient beings to have immeasurably long lives so that we wish that for self and wish that to others. And not only we make those aspirations, it's also important to rely upon longevity deities, such as, for example, to rely upon Tara to make aspirations and to recite the mantra of Tara, the longevity deity, motivated by compassion the root of bodhicitta, and of course to be motivated by bodhicitta. So it's important not just to make such aspirations and dedications for self and others to live long. It's important to combine that with practices of longevity.
데레다 마도 지금 간수다 간 사말로다 세림부 데야라야다 데바 맹이 페시 요마로스 로 아니 세림부 용약이 저도 물론져야 돼 직비기 아니 기부 대부치 로 코위기 직 대바쌈 비길야 뇽치네 직 gyungbu 소야기 딘디 소리 물론져야 되바나 아니 고바 춘종 쇼치 로 페시 구메레슬라나 초야로치 랑안도 딱게와 토모메바니 단다바도 이용가 인자 아니 지금 코위기 대와 아니 타르투바 피기다 지 시시기 대와 바르도 강여바 띵안도 뇽마뇽야 지에요 말이스 코위 동할 피기기다 지냐와 남의 그 동아 양체니 안도 뇽마뇽 지에요 말was 이네 디 뇽니 만줄라야 지 믹세기 교로자야다 펜토샤야지 아니 이츠미샤지 강야다 간주 쟁기요 말마도 템바이나 템투기요 바이나 강야요 말스다 펜도 강야요 말스 니지체도 아니 세림부 네니 아니 벤나 로카시 로츠타 카시 반네니 아니 믹스 고든 좀샤지 강야요 말스 로다 냠네 딘디지기 사모 냠네 딘디지기 체도 아니 네치는 냠네 tel야 죽투 바이나 아니 개와니 개와 세럽려야 아니 rānda shēng īgālaya pēn tō tuyā nipatrīn tuyā chī yungarwas nza sāma tāndāndi māndorwa chīchīn āni mūlam gyāguya di pēkī chāmburēshās.
We can say in general that there is no one that does not wish to have a long life. So we want to have a longer life, but still, if we use the time just to engage in samsaric pleasures, to seek more and more samsaric pleasures, living a long life does not serve a great purpose. This is not what we need. We don't need to live a longer life just so that we can still continue to pursue solely samsaric pleasures. We've done all of that before. Since time with that beginning and up until now, we've been taking different types of rebirths. We've already been born in blissful states such as the peak of cyclic existence. We've all experienced the bliss of the peak of cyclic existence, and also we have already experienced the suffering of the unrelenting hell. So we've already have gathered all those experiences. We've already experienced them, and if we could remember all of those different experiences, we would have recognized that the pleasures of samsara are not satisfying. That it's not enough, it's not good enough just to be complacent with the pleasures of cyclic existence. So if you practice longevity, if you do those aspirations for longevity, and you're going to be able to remain for 10 more years, and you're going to use them just to get more samsaric pleasures, there's not much purpose in doing that. There's no need to do that. So what we do want to do here in relation to those verses is to aspire for long life, for longevity, so that not only would be able to use this life for the cultivation of those aspects that we've mentioned before, but also to be able to do that from one lifetime to the next, from life after life after life, so that we'd be able to continue with our spiritual development.
That out David so gyoshin chividanya tama gyoslandi that serimbu never samjiki digresna di godin the dreamers ones ngazu serimbu yonyagi monum jaya godin so di nyamne yabu chetu yak chet ani serimbu yonyagi chet monum jaya ganza pigi serimba ina ya anchi lunkum devuch tanju kondu shibana je lunkum devuch mebaina nyamne lan juk tu menza di devuch ki 아니 초로쇼스 비기 체 가주스 아니 체 이린동 여바 디다 냠바지기 아니 따도 데비 초바지기 라 lunkum 데부 용아지기 아니 돌아야 네트워쇼스 아니 빈 지 드라마 냠바다 지 아니 독시디 치비다들와 어두줄에서 지 아니 지 아니 마라고 용 쇼세.
So it is important to make such aspirations. And the aspirations, as we said, is not just for living a long life, but for being able to use a long life for the practice of the Dharma. To be able to extend our life so that through all the time that we have, we'd be able to continue with our practice. And if our body and speech, if our body and mind are not well, our practice will be quite minimized or minimal. So this is the aspiration that we make here. Looking again at verse 33. May they always live in happiness, or you can say that may always have physical and mental well-being, a good state, so that they will be able to continue with the practice and not even know the term death. So there are different terms or words that might be fearful. May living beings be able to have a long life with physical and mental well-being and not even know the term death.
딘자 어딘지 만남 자고도스 지당 안주다 지당기 미지기 비게 지 아니 세르무 용야쇼 아니 대부 용야쇼 기부 용야쇼 세 만남지 다 잡 친거라스 이내야 비게 다 내가 요요 만남지 잡아나 세르무 용야쇼 세 만남디야 고 sablo 개바 용도스 비 냠랭 내다 발 잘치니 아니 세르무 용야 대비 초에 초고에 균생 돈 아니 대비 초 쇼스라바나 malum de shuk cher dogros ra malum shuk cher drobaina malum dig ani niba cher droich ani malum gabige ani dreb druya yugich o dich hayal kebatende yungros ra.
So if we just make aspirations for the long life of living beings, we might wish them to have a long life, to be well, to be happy, and so forth. We all know how to make those aspirations, but really, if you want to make sure that your practice is digging deeper, that your practice is becoming more profound, that your practice is done in an informed way, you're not going to just wish sentient beings to have a long life, to be happy, to be well, and so forth. You're going to go more subtle. You're going to make prayers that, for example, will wish for sentient beings to be able to practice the Dharma over a long time. And in this way, when you make such aspirational powers, they gain momentum, they gain strength, and they become greater and greater. And as such, they become capable of issuing forth their corresponding results.
Di kew tambo chu yachi ya tambo dindigi ani tusum shigiyores ro nga ngus gerum chigi ngaliya di sonyo yes ngemata pyogi pigita ani nedan kew shu chawe kadulaya lama giwi shini ani gegen tari taze tamalo ani zonganalaya zuchini ro ani lochuta rinlaya ani zonganal shugi kyores ngal gerum chi zonganal tu shugiyores 아니 슈비린라야 타만도들야 갱기 아니 물론 개빈 송도 아니 녜게 아니 직템바다 드로알야 직 펜도치 투여잖아 나 정관들이 타버쇼스 계지 딘디지 매바이나 나 류덴들이 체비어 쇼스 물론 개빈가 딱딱 드로송스 나 갱들이 송스라
디메나 루텐
류덴들이 표쇼스 센든의 표쇼스.
This is the way that great beings, holy beings, make their prayers. Like, for example, Geshe's teachers, like many other lamas and spiritual teachers that ended up being sent to labor camps and prison during the harsh years of the Chinese occupation of Tibet, have languished for decades in prison. So Geshe's teacher was in prison in labor camp for 10 years, and the aspirations that he made being in prison were that if there is a way for him to be of benefit to the teachings and to sentient beings, may he be liberated from prison. And if there is no benefit to the teachings or to sentient beings, he's willing to die in prison. So such aspirations, this is the spirit of aspirations that is made by such great beings.
딘디 망부 총 요사레스 딘디 망부 베나 가시기 싱그랬던데 라브rum부치 비기 신닐의 영에 라브rum부치 꼭 고마디야 싸움이 맺자고 코란주 따지 아니 롱바디기 라브 곰바싱이 디올레비 따지 아니 롱바텔이야 메산통타 가시치 요리 어두속이 쉬우지기베 아니 단들고도텔이야 대바치기 요리스 대바 요리스 간스나 꼭 고마디 비기 야미기 아니 탐진라야 치치네 아니 소토라 당긴슬람 탐진라 치원디 안 딘참니 bedlar 세고레스 라지 라다 아
아니
안들 때 bedlar다 마스타 세라마도 탐진라 치원사 람간 라지
오케이.
딘디다 딘디 요르스라
저는 대답 못 남단.
몰롬다 딘디기 단 딘디로다
Or like, for example, Lab Rinpoche that now lives at Sydney. His previous life was a very powerful Lama. It was he came from Lab Gompa, and there were thousands of families living in that area. During the early years of the Chinese occupation, where during the Cultural Revolution, it was quite common for people to be taken to struggle sessions, where basically people accused him of doing horrible things. They used to shout abuse and beat people that were taken into those struggle sessions. So Lab Rinpoche, coming from that big Gompa, Lab Gompa, was taken to one of those sessions, and it just vanished.
I want to have a sit down talk with Chris. Is whatever day it is. Okay.
Is anyone? Whoops.
Yeah, it's still recording. Cool. All right. Sorry for people. There was a Zoom issue here. Anyway, Geshe told in the meantime another story about lab Rinpoche. So disappearing halfway through to the struggle session called in Tibetan Tamzin, which often also led to the death of the victim, that happened to the previous Lab Rinpoche. Now, the current Lab Rinpoche arrived at Sera Monastery in India when he was young. And annually at Sera Monastery, I'll begin again. It's the protecting the protector associated with Selaje monastery is Hayagriva. So every year the monks at Selaje monastery do an approximation retreat in which they accumulate the mantras of Hayagriva. And once the retreat is completed, you need to do certain activities to correct any faults or issues that have arisen through that retreat. So you have to do a fire puja. So Lamrinpoche participated in that fire puja together with the abbot and the Umtseya and the chant master. So during the fire puja, certain substances have to be offered to the deity in the fire. Some of them are mustard seeds. Now, Lamrinpoche was young at the time, and anyway, he's not a big person, right? You know, he has kind of quite a small body. So someone said that it was actually quite astonishing because being such kind of a small person and also very young, sitting in front of this massive fire, he had to do the offering of the seeds to the fire, and he had to get closer and, you know, to offer those seeds, but his hand never got burned. So it seems that his hand was going into the fire without being burned. It's pretty amazing, Geshe says.
That's something that happens in the beginning. Say young about to me, but show. Say one thing about the mutual. Geshe, she retired, travel my cheese.
Anyway, that was verse 33. Let's look at the commentary of this verse. It says, may all those sentient beings take rebirth in a happy migration and be able to have a long, limitless lifespan. May these long lives always be happy and the sound of death never ring.
Tadini Sajinamaya, Sirinshi, Nugin Chigden Tapase, then Nugin Chigden Tapa, Suzuki, Nesagi, and Subshop Telia, Nugin Chigden Simoros, and did Tapamoa. Pasum Shingi Kimitsa, Sanji Tam, Sanji Se, Chunian Job, Kamaye, Chonum Tamji Kamasho, Tamji Tuyan Sajata, Semana So Mabatan, Landatan Yuri. Now,
this section not only aspires for sentient beings to have a long life, but also so that this world, which is a vessel or container, be pure and clean. So often you find a reference to the world. The world is called the container, and sentient beings are contained within this environment. So in making such aspirations, let's look at the next two verses, 34 and 35. May gardens of wish-fulfilling trees be full in all directions, with Buddhas and the Buddha's children, filled with the hearing and the proclamation of the Dhamma. May the ground everywhere be pure, without pebbles and so forth, as even as the palm of the hand, the nature of Vijaya and soft.
Mandalay Sanji Rigori, Sanji Combo Toyori, Sanji Combo Toyo, Samashi, Siji Lucilia, Sinton, Seducilia, Toya Yoros. In a top to a Chevalaya, Suzungini, Bedrin Chigudas, then on Shingipe, and Susun Yan Cordi, and Sanji said and Chibi, Chuni Job Kamayunaya, and Susun is Lavalomi Tushi Chichi, and it been a touch on the Vigilia. Dengi Jimbana, and Chuni, She, Gon, Tu, Cheni, and it Tun Dawachivana, and it Mono Dinanshi, younger was rough. A dim nature, and it diligently dead, and it Gamgado Soraji, Yenjig Soraji, Kanji, and a Chapsi Kanjan was a chap devana, and the Yomar was rough.
So we need effort in order to make that happen. Well, these verses make such aspirations, right? May the grounds everywhere be pure, may the guidance of wish-fulfilling trees be full in all directions with Buddhas and Bodhisattvas children filled with the hearing and the proclaiming of the Dhamma. We need to make effort for that to happen. We have Buddha nature. We can attain the state of enlightenment. We can even do that in our short life at this time of degeneration. This is possible. But for all of that to come to pass, we need to make effort. So that if around us we have everything that is necessary for that to come about, we have Buddhas and Bodhisattvas around us, we have those that teach us the Dhamma, we enjoy, for example, these facilities, what we then need to do is to make effort in teaching, in studying, in meditating, and so forth. And if we do use the time, make the effort to do so, we will be able to attain the state of enlightenment. Whereas if we have all those conditions, conducive conditions available to us, but we still muck around, we still become distracted, we do things half-heartedly, it will not come to pass.
Pasam Shingi, Gemisel, Sanjit and Sanji say, Chunyaba to Jobe, Kawan, Chona Tamji, Kawan shot, Sasho Tamji Duyan, Sajita, Satsatan, Kojenda, Doat, Sermatan, Seman, so never. Lanterta, Nyam, Bundri, Ranjin Jambo, John Churches.
So returning to the commentary, it says, may all directions be filled with groves of wish-fulfilling trees, full with Buddhas and Bodhisattvas proclaiming the melodious sounds of the Dhamma. May the ground everywhere be lush, pure, and smooth, without stones, thorns, or pebbles, smooth like the nature of lapis lazuli, similar to the palm of one's hand. Next are verses 36, 7, and 8, coming under the heading of dedicating so that this world be full of beneficial beings and for their conduct to abide in bliss. Now, reading through verse 36, first off. For all the circles of retinues that exist, may many bodhisattvas abide, adorning the surface of the earth with their excellence.
And choose song in Dramanda, chew good Sella, chew Yilaman energy. Any share Devana, any deep Korea, any Chanchu Samayan Kabu Shuras, but the Samota, can you Samalo, any Susun when the Sasa Chikwachi, read in those.
When it says for all the circles of retinues that exist, it refers to the circles or the mandalas of those who teach the Dhamma. Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, may they be all around us, may the space around us be full with those circles of those who teach the Dhamma. Which means that this is, in making such aspirations, what we're aspiring for is qualified beings, good teachers that teach us the Dhamma, rather than having around us those that might give teachings, but in a way that you cannot decipher what they're actually saying, or that they will teach you all sorts of things which are disconnected or do not have a lot of value. This is not what we need. What we need is good Dhamma teachers for the space around us to be full with Buddhas and Bodhisattvas.
And Nigeria, Tindic County, Malangia, Soba, now you want to Malangia, any Tabasum de Mumin Zumbai, Labasum de Women Zambayan, Dubu Sojin in the Young Council, Tao the Shedu Chavis in Diva, Tunde Children give it, Tashisho, Sages, or the Gila Sober, and Manangadi, Bekishambo, and the Jig, something Manangabchini, and the G Young Tolia, Suzula, Niva Kayabati, Suzulunga is some Niva Kayabati, and the Dilia, and Shadow Shubaina, that Malamdi Kayola Chagras Rap.
So we make such prayers, such aspirations, and we can make them also specific to, for example, this place. So just like it is in the spirit of one of those verses that espouse for the auspiciousness of for monasteries to be, or assembly halls to be full of monastics, those that wear the saffron robe, so that they will have the auspiciousness of engaging in study, reflection, and meditation, debating, and so forth. So we make such aspirations, but on top of that, if we also make sure that with our body, speech, and mind, we act in a way that contributes to that. We offer service so that those places that in which monastics gather, they study, they reflect, and so forth, still operate, still function. Then not only we make prayers, but we're also making sure that those realities come to be.
최종의 코디 긴고 연구야 장주성과 마모다 랑기 연대 무슨 소바 레베 사된다 ям벌 제베 슈규직스 남대 고추고.
So again, reading through this verse, it says, for all the circles of recognition that exist, may many bodhisattvas abide adorning the surface of the earth with their excellence.
다 텔레니비 비 차르다 순전히 비 아니 깨다 두주토니 비 아니 취지다 코트워시 인디송보다 루진군이 차다는 신다면서 탐제다 남과 내견 취지다 규문체가 펴보셔.
And may sentient beings be able to hear those sounds of the Dhamma in their own languages, as it says in the commentary. May whatever mandalas of recognition of Dhamma students are, a multitude of bodhisattvas reside, adorning the ground with the goodnesses of their excellent qualities. May all embodied beings hear uninterruptedly the sound of Dhamma from trees, light rays, and even from space, like bodhisattvas who have attained power.
Teresta benana suzu semgi da samutang so ra pigi benata chudriagi ani tungen da gense dia an so suzu tebat tamsila ya rali deba suzu tebat tamsig majo baina an lam givishini baina rang chudrigi gagena rodech ro dintende yodos 소수기 대바다 당식이 좁아이네야 아니 차치우지 깨져바이네야 될 때니 아니 취기다 튀어튀어지 배는 지연실롱 거를 때니 아니 뒤심마다 때미기 아니 송코트게지 딩고라서라 이제 조수스 삼례 라려지
For that to happen, we need to have all the conducive conditions and to rid ourselves of adverse conditions. We need to have faith and also to keep our samaya pure. To be able to accomplish, to be able to gather our conducive conditions and to rid ourselves of adverse conditions, we need to have faith in samaya, without which, if we don't have faith, if we don't keep our samayas pure, even if we have lamas or spiritual teachers around us, even if we have a good teacher, they could act as an adverse condition for us. Whereas if you give rise to faith, if you guard your samayas, you can get to the point, as this verse says, that even the wind rustling through the trees, even the sound of wind for you could be a Dhamma teaching you impermanence and so forth.
When the Javakarana Modia, want to be changes some but that's Soyati. Similar round to Savicella and Tebatamzi Yomivachi, young to us. 딘자 아니 온도에 전주스마다 류진군이 자다는 신도에서 탐지 남가내냐 취기자 규미처럼 되버쇼세
그런데 원톱에 전체 선배들 가르쳐?
샘라 온토바이나 라 샘라 온토바이나 대바탐지 규함이 같이 윤거를 때 딜게 제라 아니 디 탐진다 취기자 규미처 되버지 윤구여서레스.
Now, the commentary referred to bodhisattvas who have attained power, who have attained control. So it says, may all embodied beings hear uninterruptedly the sound of Dhamma from all trees, likewise, even from space, like bodhisattvas who have attained power. To attain power, to attain control means that one has attained control over the mind with faith, pleasures, or samadhis, and so forth. You have bodhisattvas who have attained control over the mind. And if you attain control over the mind, if they attain control of the mind, then everything is within one's reach. So such things is mentioned in verse 37. May all embodied beings continually hear the sound of Dhamma coming from the birds and the trees, from every ray of light as well as from the sky. So if you have attained control over the mind, like those bodhisattvas, those things are possible.
대다다도 산계당 산계세단 제규지 제비든 타입이 조여라마 쳐버쇼스.
And verse 38 says, may they always meet Buddhas and Buddha's children. May they present offerings to the gurus of migrating beings with infinite clouds of offerings.
대다다도 산계당 산계세단 체세야디 먼저 비 경건세 연된 군den기 아니 단 농군 넘버지 초구주군 넘버지 주군 넘버지 딘지지답에 아니 체치니 아니 주 년세디 가고 쇼지로스 소소소다 먼저 아니 가서다 소농기 배나가다가다 소농기 조금 말았어. 또 이나야 디지 콘셉트 창상 제통이 배나 동나 부추 아니 간다지 통나야 아니 창상 아니 만화와 모टे 통인기 라마기위시 니지다 피했던데 여러 소소야 부치바나 딘디들 체치니 아니 메시지 균다치야 균다투게 딘디 여러 딜 아니 비게 가서다 인구샤도 수치 아주 저는 좋아이나 아니 메시지 되는 데마치 로 산지세도 제바 제바든 제바치 요마로스터
When it says in verse 38, may they always meet Buddhas and the Buddha's children. So Buddhas appear in a variety of ways, and we can recognize how hard it is for us to encounter Buddhas in the form of Sambhogakaya, or to encounter different forms of Buddha Nirmanakaya, Supreme Nirmanakaya, and so forth. In that, Geshe says that people like us, at least Geshe was speaking about it in relation to himself, he doesn't have enough merit to meet those forms of Buddha as they are, to meet as Sambhogakaya, to meet as Supreme Nirmanakaya, and so forth. But we do have those emissaries of the Buddha, those that represent the body and the mind of Buddhas. We have spiritual friends, teachers that unmistakably introduce us to the teachings of the Buddha. So if we attend to them in this life, if we attend our body, speech, and mind to them in this life, we can make our life meaningful. We can make our life be in accord with the Dhamma.
데레다 디 야지자탐바테니 페나타 라마기위시니세디 소줄라야치 란돌기네신 말로 땡기 라마기위시니야 샤토시야티 이 삼노노야 믹스 가소치 로 가와치키엔도스 잉아 잠시만다 소줄라 냠요테스 예스로 두스 게긴 샤슈니 아니 두 데비르야 지 쿠마데리아 님메츠나 타카상부 총송 상상치 에나 나란도나 님메츠나 말이야 지 아니 바로니에로 체레 아니 지 게시 민로지 렌데잉이 투주 쇼 체레스 나 콘조방도 춘 챙이면도스라 님메츠 비다지 개긴 그곳에 타마들이야 로카시 지르야 수수버다 아바다 샤슈야디 세는 가디는 땅이 밑에는 데데 야부슈 총 상상지 내가 건조 이해스라.
Attending to your spiritual teachers, to your Lama, that teach you unerringly what you need to do, what you need to take up, and what you need to cast aside. How fortunate we are to be able to do so. If you do get to do that, you're indeed very fortunate. At least Geshe said that looking at his life, in which he had the opportunity to receive teachings from incredible teachers and spiritual friends, he has graduated from the study program, became a Geshe. It's not that he considers that to be something that is very special or incredibly, that he did it incredibly well, but being able to attend his spiritual teacher towards the end of his life, and being able to offer him service and so forth, Geshe feels that this is something that has resulted really well in his life. He regards himself as being very fortunate to have been able to do so.
Some Chagios, the Dindi Kebakar, Samuel, the Kebakar was Lavana, Giganuche, the Lamaki one, Ganuche, Peshet, don't talk about Sorachina, and in Dawaching and searching you soon, and if Chikmanamaya, and if Jedeado, a chick Kalamia deado, Timdi, Gumach the Yungutus. The only Narandu some down the Nishato is came 2 years, Shadow is Shubanza, T. Sanson, Shana Jaurum to the tablet, show use, Sanjing move, do she use Inaya, Malam, Jed, Pen Nourishes, and it been the Namjet as a can which in a garden showings, Zavilama in a Kaka model, the woman's again the patient. And Manam Nala, Jig is a deep Kevadiras that did his song with Narasan Sanama.
So Geshe has a few teachers, a few spiritual friends, like for example, of course, his honest Dalai Lama. His honest Dalai Lama is one of them. But really, when Geshe thinks of the spiritual teachers in which he had to really work hard to do things for their sake, then his root teacher, his precious teacher, is the Lama that he feels closer to in terms of being able to attend him at the last part of his life. So even after his teacher passed away, even now, Geshe sees his teacher in his dream. At least once or twice or 3 times, or even more than that, a month, maybe every week. And he still receives advice or hears the voice, sees them and receives advice for them from his precious teacher in his dreams. And that comes through having attended to his teacher, having pleased his teacher. So his honest Dalai Lama is, of course, someone that Geshe has great faith in. He's an actual Buddha, a real Buddha. And also another teacher of Geshe is Tongdo Rinpoche, the abbot of Namgyal Monastery, was very kind to him. But still, it's not that Geshe often sees his honest Dalai Lama in his dreams. It happens every once in a while, or even the abbot of Namgyal Monastery, Tongdo Rinpoche. But his teacher, his precious teacher, he sees his teacher, he could say every week in his dream, and he still kind of listens to his teacher's advice. So that comes through making such effort.
Touching Donghang Chugi, Yamning, Towachi, Suzu Rangulaya, and Jongo Yobatan, Lami Chinab Sadi, Samley, Chugu Yoba, and 뒤따도 즉 아니 산지세다 제거야 체세 그저 조디 아니 라마니 비비 쳐봐야 라리기여서 난 샘띵 땡기여서
It says, may they present offerings to the gurus of migrating beings with infinite clouds of offerings in verse 38. So the gurus of migrating beings, those to teach the systems of sutra and mantra. You receive the blessings of those teachers in your mind. You meet bodhisattvas, or you see bodhisattvas around you. All of these, be able to receive teachings of sutra and mantra, to receive the blessings of the Dhamma in your mind, to see bodhisattvas around you, all of that, Geshe believes, comes from pleasing your spiritual teacher, attending to and pleasing your spiritual teacher.
아니 정말 무슨 거 준비했다 직송의 데이터니 지금데 거라서 근데 정말 무슨 거 준비하기 비기 라마야 잠비야 예담야 잠비야 최교야 잠비야 아니 제준 잠비야 좀 두골체니 아니 차 그래서 저거 그래서 소원 대사 용수 저거 아니 제준 잠비야네 템비 균센지 아니 제준 잠비야 그 뒤따도 비기래 셰스치니 아니 동하게 sabji che and sembaji yungyoras ra deso taran resera.
When you look at that from the viewpoint of Lama Tsongkhapa's life story, so the great Tsongkhapa relied upon Manjushri as his Lama, as his Yidam, as his Dhamma protector, the one that he made requests and supplications to. He made offerings, he made prostrations and so forth. All of these were directed at Manjushri to the point in which he came to see Manjushri face to face, and he received the instructions of Manjushri in his own mind.
Simjen 대다다도 산지에단 산지 세단 처벌 규칙 처벌된 양수 타입인 교회라마 산지의 처벌 쇼스.
Let's complete the reading of this commentary in relation to these verses. So, may these sentient beings always meet Buddhas and the children of the Buddhas. May they offer infinite oceans of offering clouds to the highest of migrators, the Buddhas.
Songa gobi yoshe tsangshin neba shiwa ngwanes. Hanya tusu chalmepshi loto posum tsogochu gyabu chujin cheju jikden tajin tawashos.
And then the last point is dedicating so that all basic necessities are complete and that harm is pacified in verses 39 through to verse 41. We begin with verse 39, which reads, may the gods also send down timely rain and make crops be plentiful. May kings act in accordance with the Dhamma. May worldly beings also prosper.
Terda daran da chödrübe tüngen tüz, rayan tüzü chalbevşi. Anen loto pozun soba. Mi gyabu, gyasi chöjün tü çebar küçüz. Jigden tani deki gembi konu tabar shows.
The commentary reads as conducive conditions for Dhamma practice. May the gods bestow timely rain and may the crops be perfect and complete. Then it says, may the powerful amongst human beings, such as kings and princes, act in accordance with the Dhamma, and may the worldly realms be increased through being adorned with happiness and joy.
대대도 용에 열어서 배낭한도 다치 개벽이 아니 자식 최전도 제벌세디 단다성 담바이나 용 메시지 소리지 디레모도스 중용 열어서 아니 용야 종식 버지로서 배낭 아니 야갈이야 아니 공부로도 야세 페이지 배낭 공부로도기 아니 개불이야 아니 맞다 시딩 셀 소바 아니 림팅가 소바디 아니 갸보가 피기 아니 담비기 담나든지 렌도스 진짜 아니 갸보 피기 아니 추연비 진다 치치니 아니 갸나노야 난추팅 사고 슈츠 다야디 아니 데네데네 총도스라 아니 페기 난데세 단데 잠블리야 지 이미게 대하게 페기 난데디 야한테만 별 다른 카드라야 지 페기 아니 갸보토서 통계 좀 시체니 아니 야가를 회변난 덴데 슈지니 아니 페기 비 갸툼라야 아니 지 메기초당 디디게 침샤친 메기초봉가 소바 아니 침샤친이 아니 별야 남주 인사고 슈지 다리가라서
Some of the things that you find in those verses might sound to be a bit fanciful, particularly in this point in time. So it says, may kings act in accordance with the Dharma, may worldly beings also prosper. So we now live in different environments, different political environments and so forth. It might seem that all these dedications concerning kings and princes are not something that is relevant to us, that is possible. You might think that cannot really come to pass. But actually, it is possible for such things to occur, particularly when we look at history. When we say that actually in many parts of the world, we had kings and princes and kingdoms and so forth, and they exerted a certain influence on their environment. Like, for example, looking at India, looking at the time of Nagarjuna, who was in a friendly relation with the king. He composed this text, a letter to a king, he composed advice to a king. And such kings became patrons of the Dharma, assisted in the dissemination of the Dharma, taking root of the Dharma in those places. So when you consider that from the viewpoint of the Tibetan tradition, when Buddhism was moving from India to Tibet, the kings in Tibet became patrons of the Dhamma. They invited Indian masters and also instituted a system of rules and laws that are coded with ethical discipline that abstains from the 10 non-virtues. So when we think of such aspirations, may kings act in accordance with the Dhamma and so forth, though it might seem for us to be impossible, don't think about it like that. Actually, there are examples from history of such things happening. Shall we leave it here for now? Gewadi nyududa lama sange dubyune dowa chikyama lupa de sala gopa sho chanchu sencho rinpoche make panan ke gyuchi kewa nyamba me paya gone gondo pewa sho kanri rawe kowe shinkandi pendan dewa malu chunweni chenre siwan tenzin gyatsoi shape site patu tengyuchi Jesu lama kutse chin longa chinde chochu yabata lo sante bento me sasungi. I read the wrong one, but it's still good. Tony ninja sunju jupela cheche sense kanchen tengandu sana pemo tenzing yatsola so at pep so chen lundu show. To so jang jang gung yawe tenzi kyong pe we kunzo do po tse cho sun ko we le mung du pa da so du jen kun du sha ten shu.
손이 지키셨어.
Yes.
Repetition